You're listening to the Better Relationships After Baby podcast, where I believe your relationship can be stronger than ever after having a baby. It just takes tools, conversation, and support to help you get there. I'm Chelsea Skaggs, certified life and relationship coach, mom of two, and survivor and thriver of tough relationship challenges after babies. I'm committed to helping couples just like you improve your communication skills, connection points, and personal confidence so that you can have the life and family you've always dreamt of. Now, let's get to today's episode. Hey there, mama friend. Thank you for joining another episode of the Better Relationships After Baby podcast, where we discuss the highs, the lows, and everything in between about early parenthood. I'm Chelsea Skaggs, professional life coach, mom of two, and your bonus big sister as you grow your family and learn how to stay connected to yourself and your partner. Today, we're diving into a topic that hits close to home for many new parents. That is how defensiveness shows up in relationships, especially after having a baby. And then we'll discuss what we can do about it. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this, that is such a Midwestern saying, isn't it? Every time I've thought about this topic, I was a middle school cheerleader. I don't think I made it past ninth grade in cheerleading. But when I think of this, I think of the cheer like defense, defense. So hopefully that will be stuck in your head or not, depending on whether you like it. But let's be honest about this topic. Bringing a new baby into the family is an incredible experience. I mean, we talk about that every episode, everything that I put out there. Yes, it's an incredible experience, but it also comes with its fair share of stress and emotional challenges. The lack of sleep, the new responsibilities, the constant demands can strain even the strongest relationships. And this is where defensiveness often creeps in, which then makes the communication even harder. There are challenges in conversations that you didn't face before because, life was easier in a lot of ways. It is okay if in this season you need to develop new skills and insights to keep your relationship going strong and to have less of that defensiveness that then cycles into counter defensiveness and frustration and lack of validation and anger, and it just goes on and on. These are the kinds of things that can really alter our relationship and how we work together as a team. So what does defensiveness look like in a relationship? I'm going to break down some common examples, and then we're going to discuss strategies to not only handle them, but to continually grow your teamwork and help you and your partner to thrive in your communication and how you're connecting with one another. The first thing defensiveness might look like is called blame shifting. So for example, your partner mentions that you didn't prepare the baby's bottle last night. A defensive response might be, you didn't change the diaper before bed. Instead of just actually addressing the issue, you are shifting the blame with a new example. In the haze of sleepless nights, it is easy to feel like you are doing everything alone. This defensiveness stems from a place of feeling overwhelmed and underappreciated. And can I just say, those are two key words to early parenthood: overwhelmed and underappreciated. Blame shifting often arises because actually acknowledging the complaint feels like you're admitting failure, which is hard if you're already feeling inadequate, if you're already feeling overwhelmed and underappreciated. Blame shifting occurs because it redirects the perceived attack. When you're exhausted and emotionally spent, admitting fault can feel like just another weight on your shoulders. So this reaction is a protective mechanism to avoid feeling more guilt or shame. Similarly, another example is a counterattack. So when your partner says, "You've been so distant lately," a defensive comeback might be, "You're always on your phone." Now, instead of addressing the feeling of distance, you're stuck in a cycle of attack and counterattack and one-upping each other. This can also be like keeping score or tallying or figuring out who's made the most mistakes. This often happens because new parents are dealing with so much change and stress. Like, that is so true about you. The feeling of being unimportant or neglected can easily lead to defensiveness. When you're feeling neglected or unloved, counterattacking is a way to express your own hurt, albeit indirectly and oftentimes not very helpful. But we speak out of our hurt and out of our wounds. And so if our partner brings something up that feels like a criticism, we might counterattack with something that maybe we've been harboring or we haven't talked about, or it's just coming up for us. Like, well, you, da-da-da-da-da. I'm imagining the like pointing finger. You hear something that feels critical of yourself, and so you turn it around and you say, well, you, da-da-da-da-da. Counterattacks are a way to deflect the criticism and express your pent-up frustrations. By pointing out the other person's faults, it shifts the focus and relieves some of the emotional burden from you, though it ultimately just exacerbates the conflict. But it can feel good for a second to just like take that weightiness and shift it and pass it over or, shoot it over to your partner. Sometimes it just feels good to jab at your partner out of a place of your own hurt. Here's a classic example. Excuses. You ask your partner why they didn't help with the laundry, and they respond, I was too busy with work. Excuses like these can make the other person feel like their needs are being brushed aside. During the postpartum period, and even far beyond the first few weeks and months, balancing work and new parenting responsibilities is tough. Excuses are often a way to avoid that additional pressure or guilt. They serve as a way to defend against this perception of failure to meet responsibilities. I hear this a lot from the men that I work with when I do relationship coaching, that they feel like they're not giving their best at work, they're not giving their best at home, they're not giving their best to their friends, they're not getting their exercise or like any form of self-care. And so instead of working together to figure out how to continue to grow in all these areas, they can feel like excuses are what they have to protect their self-esteem. Because when you admit that you didn't fulfill a task, it can feel like you're admitting that you are inadequate, which is particularly sensitive during the times of high stress and adjustment, the times when you're not getting a lot of positive feedback. You feel like you're not meeting all the check marks or the boxes or the buckets, when the goal is really to build teamwork and figuring out how to get done the endless amounts of things that need done. Excuses keep us from really moving forward with intention and teamwork. Another example is denial. Let's say that you mention to your partner that you feel that they're not engaged with the baby. A defensive denial might be, that's not true. I spend lots of time with the baby. Denial dismisses the other person's feelings and stops any meaningful conversation from happening. It's like just putting up the stop signer. Back in the day, maybe you guys also did this, like in elementary or middle school, you'd be like, talk to the hand, because the face ain't listening. That is what denial can be. It's like putting up that hand, pushing it away, refusing to engage. In this example, we know that new parents can be very sensitive about their parenting efforts. I mean, of course you are. There are so many places of input. There are so many places of judgment. There are so many things out there telling you what you should or shouldn't do or what's good and bad. I mean, it is exhausting. Denial for either partner is a way to protect yourself from feeling like a failure. Are we seeing a pattern here? No one wants to feel like a failure. It is a defense mechanism that helps maintain self-esteem in the face of that perceived criticism. We don't want to feel criticized. We don't want to feel like a failure. Denial serves as an immediate way to just avoid the uncomfortable truths. And another example is rationalizing. So when your partner says they felt hurt by something you said, a defensive rationalization might be, I was just joking. You're too sensitive. You're rationalizing what happened instead of taking any ownership or leaning into understanding your partner's experience. Rationalizing minimizes the partner's feelings and invalidates that experience. Postpartum emotions are heightened. And again, this is not just a couple weeks. This is not just a couple of months. We know that it can take anywhere from 2 to 5 years for the brain and the hormones and the body to be back in a place of quote unquote normal. So what seems like a harmless joke can sometimes cut deep. Rationalizing prevents genuine emotional connection and avoids taking responsibility for the impact of one's words. Rationalizing is often used to justify one's behavior and avoid feeling guilty or responsible. It's a way to maintain a sense of being in the right, even at the expense of a partner's feelings. You've seen a pattern here. I mentioned it before. We don't want to feel criticized. We want to protect our ego. We are in a very, very vulnerable state with the changes that a baby brings. Defensiveness happens because people want to protect their feelings. I've been there. My husband's been there. My friends have been there in their marriages and in our own friendships. Surely you've been there too. When someone feels like they are being criticized, it can hurt their feelings. It can make them feel bad about themselves. And again, can be especially true for new parents who are already tired, already stressed, already getting judgment and expectations from a million directions. If one parent says something that feels like a complaint, the other might get defensive to avoid feeling like they did something wrong. This reaction is likely because they just want to keep feeling good about themselves and not admit that they made a mistake, or maybe that they need to back up and try something a different way. Understanding that defensiveness is about protecting feelings can help us be kinder and more understanding with each other. And we're going to talk about exactly how to do that. This is not flip a switch. And again, I don't tell you these things. I'm not teaching you these examples of defensiveness so that you can point it out to your partner and stick your finger and be like, you're using rationalization, or you're using the denial or excuses or counterattacks. This is to give us information so that we can be a team, not so that we can pull ourselves farther from one another and try to be the bigger or better person in the situation. I want to call you in. I want to call you in together with your partner so that you can identify and see when things aren't going a direction you want, and you can lovingly make the intention and make the moves to growing together. That's what these strategies are for. Okay. I don't expect you to hear these strategies and be in a place where you're like, well, I implemented X, Y, and Z and everything is on a perfect road. But of course, if we're calling out a problem and we are giving it a name, just like we did with these examples of defensiveness, I also want to provide you with ways to continually lean in with your partner, be growing together, and make that relationship a safer, stronger place. So we've identified those patterns, right? We want to make our relationship better with these strategies to manage defensiveness when it arises. Strategy 1 is developing self-awareness. Get curious about how you react to certain things. I love the word curious. I love to have the couples that I coach get curious about when they feel triggered or when defensiveness comes up, when they might be tempted to throw a counterattack or to have an excuse for something. And this is not to judge your behavior. It's to get information. Pretend like you are a sociologist. I studied psychology and sociology in college. And as a sociologist or even a psychologist, you are looking for patterns. You are looking for how people respond to each other and how they interact with one another, and also what that looks like in their own brains. And so again, this is not to judge yourself or to find all of your flaws. This is to get curious about what things are triggering you, what things feel good to you, What things feel like an area that you're really not confident in? When someone brings it up, you have a visceral reaction in your body. Reflect on those things that cause defensiveness. This is going to be really valuable information. Maybe it's feeling undervalued or overwhelmed. But by understanding these things, you can better control your responses. If you notice that you get defensive when your partner comments on your parenting, then take a moment to breathe. Acknowledge that feeling. Acknowledge, okay, this is feeling really uncomfortable in my body, but I hear you. Let's talk about how we can support each other better. It's okay to say, this isn't feeling good for me, or I'm noticing that my body is tensing up and I don't want to have this conversation, but we're going to do it. We're going to talk about how we can better support each other or how we can make this area of our lives stronger. Developing self-awareness helps you understand those root causes of your defensiveness. I say this a lot, but the problem isn't usually the problem, or the feeling isn't usually the feeling. We are multifaceted people, and by getting curious, by engaging self-awareness, what you're able to do is peel back the layers of the onion that you are. So something triggers you. Okay, what's behind that? What's behind that? What's behind that? We keep pulling back the layers to try to get closer to the root. That's where real change happens, is the closer we get to the root of a problem or an insecurity or this defensiveness that we're feeling. This awareness can reduce your reactive responses and then foster more constructive communication. That's what we want. It's about recognizing your patterns, learning to pause before reacting, which is crucial during those emotionally charged periods of early parenthood. Additionally, when you recognize these things, you know how you can do your own inner work to grow your confidence or your comfort in that area of your life. This is a great thing to work through with a life coach. I would love to help you with this. Strategy number 2, practice empathy. Empathy is crucial. Try to see things from your partner's perspective as much as possible. When they express a concern, instead of immediately defending yourself, can you validate their feelings? If your partner says, I feel like I'm doing everything, instead of saying, well, I did X and Y and Z, and then I also did A. Try responding with something like, I can see how you might feel that way. How can we balance things better? This shifts the conversation from conflict to collaboration. You are a team. Teams are continually finding ways to work better together. That means they're willing to sit in the difficult conversations and feelings, and instead of fleeing that, they take the information in and use it to grow. I love empathy. I'm not always good at it, but I know how helpful it is. Practicing empathy helps to de-escalate potential conflicts and build emotional connection. So we want to show our partner, I value your perspective. This can diffuse the defensiveness and truly open a door to more supportive interactions. The next strategy you've probably heard, but I want to remind you of it. Use I statements. Using I statements will help a lot. Instead of saying, you never help with the baby, try, I feel overwhelmed and I need more help with the baby. This way, you are leading with your needs. You're not leading with an accusation. This reduces the chance of a defensive response. I statements focus on your own experiences and feelings, and that cannot be argued with. That is how you are feeling. That is what you are presenting about yourself. It's a lot less likely then for your partner to feel attacked. This approach encourages more openness and a less defensive dialogue, which is essential for resolving issues collaboratively. And then this last strategy is to create a safe environment. I talk about this in season 1 when I talk about having business meetings, but intentionally creating environments for conversation and collaboration like this can be a real game changer. Creating a safe environment where both partners can express their feelings without fear of judgment truly is essential. So I encourage you to make time for regular check-ins. where you both can share your experiences and feelings. Again, if you haven't listened to my episode in season 1 about weekly business meetings, please make that next on your queue. This creates a regular time to check in on things without the escalated emotions. During these weekly no judgment conversation times, you can both discuss any concerns or feelings openly. This is a practice that can build trust and reduce defensiveness over time. Now, I don't want this to just be a gripe session. I want you to also be talking about what's going well when you're talking about what's not going well. The other benefit of having these weekly business meetings or check-ins is that it gives your thoughts and feelings a place to go. So especially if you're someone who keeps 1,000 tabs open in your brain and you feel very anxious about that, like you're just literally carrying it along in your brain and your body, having a scheduled time to check in on that lets you know, okay, this is still there, but this has a place. It's not open-ended where you wonder, are we ever going to get back to this? Or am I ever going to have a time to bring this up? You want to literally give it this box that you can put it in and open back up when it's the right time. And then a bonus tip here is to benefit from a professional. If defensiveness is a persistent issue, or just a new issue that you're facing and you're not quite sure how to move through it because maybe it wasn't part of your life before baby, consider working with me with relationship coaching. I can help you both navigate these challenges and develop healthier communication patterns. As a third party, I'm here to promote you both as a team and as individuals. This creates a really empowering way to get everything out on the table, get on the same page together, and learn how your similarities and differences are impacting the relationship. I've seen this drastically reduce conflict and give you ways to handle differences and goals and things that you're not really happy with in a healthy way. Then you get to practice these skills in conversations with me as a non-biased third party who is rooting for your success. It's kind of like having training wheels that help you build your new habits together until you're really good at it and you can move forward on your own. As we wrap up, let me remind you, defensiveness is a natural response, especially under the stress of new parenthood, but it doesn't have to dominate or even ruin your relationship. By developing self-awareness, practicing empathy, using I statements, creating a safe environment, and seeking that professional support, you can foster a more understanding and supportive partnership. This isn't like turn the magic key and everything's going to be perfect all the time, but we really are moving towards more understanding and a supportive partnership where you can feel proud of the life you've built together. I am rooting for you, for your relationship, and for your family. I truly believe we make the world a better place one home at a time. And that starts with the relationship, the communication that you experience, the ways that your children see your relationship grow and flourish over the next few years. If you haven't already, make sure that you join the Better Relationships After Baby Facebook group, where all of my free resources live, along with a free monthly challenge to help you and your partner. This coming month in June, our challenge is 3 days to fighting better. We'll be discussing topics like defensiveness, but also more skills and strategies to engage the fights and the arguments and the disagreements, because I think for most of us, those are going to be present. That's a part of life. We're two different humans doing life together and raising other tiny humans together. And we have different lived experiences. We have different perceptions of all of these different aspects of life. So it's normal. It's normal to have conflict. It's normal to have disagreements, but we want to do that in a respectful and productive way. And that's what I'm here to help you do. So I hope to see you in the Better Relationships After Baby Facebook group. Make sure that you put in a request to join, and then I will let you in, and I'll also send you a quick email that shares how to use the free course that's in there, the other free resources, and join the challenge. And as always, if we're not connected other places, come find me on social media at Postpartum Together. Say hello, let me know what you're going through, and I cannot wait to learn more about your story and your journey. Cheers, parents, to better relationships, stronger communication, and just feeling like you've got this. You can really enjoy the life you've worked hard to build together. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you take a minute to help spread the word. As a small business owner, shares and reviews go a long way. So share this episode with a friend, share it on your social media, and please leave a review if you haven't done so. This helps these messages get to more mamas, and you guys, that's how we change the world.